Removing this monument to Soviet soldiers in the Latvian capital of Riga could be considered a crime in neighboring Russia. Moscow has put dozens of Baltic politicians on a wanted list for destroying Soviet-era monuments, according to a government database. They include Estonian Prime Minister Kaja Kallas, a majority of the previous Latvian parliament, and Lithuanian Culture Minister Simonas Kairys.
It shows that I'm going in the right way. These allegations...
He calls the allegations by Russia crazy.
Crazy. They still have image that they have power in independent, sovereign, democratic countries as Lithuania, but simply to say it's a nonsense.
The three countries were once ruled from Moscow but are now members of both the EU and NATO. Since the Russian invasion in Ukraine, they've become staunch supporters of Kyiv and vocal critics of Russia. The Baltic governments regard the monuments as propaganda tools constructed by their former imperial overlords.
We cancel heritage protection to the Soviet symbols, monuments, which was not used like a piece of art in Soviet occupation period. But these symbols and monuments were used to establish regime and occupation.
A Russian foreign ministry spokeswoman warned, "This is only the beginning." She added, "Crimes against the memory of the world's liberators from Nazism and fascism must be prosecuted." The punishment under the Russian criminal code for monument destruction? 5 years in prison, according to Russian state news agency TASS. But in practical terms, being on the list is unlikely to have real consequences. The politicians only risk being arrested if they enter Russia.
We all agreed that Russia is a big threat.
Kallas, for one, has said up to 400 monuments would be dismantled in Estonia. On social media, she said she wouldn't be silenced by the Kremlin.
And we all agreed that Russia is a big threat. They are more aggressive. I wonder what has happened now, where this proposal comes, and I'm really, really keen to listen their argumentation, what has changed since last time. Because what we have seen, Russia only goes as far as we let them, and we should be very clear what is our goal in relationship with Russia and what has changed, why this is on the table now.
Yeah, that would be beautiful. Yeah, something positive.
Forces.
As much, this concludes this press conference.
Hello, hi.
Thousands additional troops which will be based rotationally but underground permanently. Underground troops in Estonia, like Canada and Germany, promised for every day.
Hey, ¿te han dado lo que hay de esto?
About the humanitarian situation, so the humanitarian aid, ways to do it in addition to the national budgets. Of course.
Estonia says Russia is preparing for a military confrontation with the West within the next decade. Its Foreign Intelligence Service said on Tuesday that the assessment was based on Russia's plans to double the number of forces stationed along its border with Finland, Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia. This is Kaupo Rosen, chief of the intelligence service.
And we also see that the Kremlin is probably anticipating a possible conflict with NATO within the next decade or so. That's from their perspective. Without specifying what does it exactly mean. Would it be a direct military action in Baltic states or somewhere else?
He says right now, Russia doesn't have the manpower, partly because it has to keep troops in Ukraine, and that NATO and its allies were moving in the right direction to counter the Russian threat. A growing number of Western officials have warned of a military threat from Russia to countries along the eastern flank of NATO, calling for Europe to get prepared by rearming. Estonia and the other Baltic states have increased their military spending since Russia annexed Crimea in 2014, and NATO allies have raised their presence in those countries. Germany, in its first permanent foreign deployment since World War II, plans to have 4,800 combat-ready troops in the region by 2027. Rosen added that unless Western support to Ukraine is sustained or increased, it is unlikely to be able to change the situation on the battlefield.